Good morning, everyone. Kevin Carroll here with the McMahon Group. I'm happy to be with all my Florida friends calling in today from Jupiter, and hope all of you are doing well as we're finishing the busy season here in Florida. We're going to discuss today the outlook for private clubs in Florida in this year and beyond. And if we could sum it up in a word or two, I'd say the outlook for clubs in 2023 in Florida is fantastic. I'd like to thank the group that I work with, the McMahon Group from St. Louis, Missouri. Our chairman, Bill McMahon, founded McMahon Group 40 years ago. Many of you know Bill and have worked with him and Frank over the years. Frank joined the group in 1988, has extensive experience as well. Chris Coulter and I, both recovering general managers, and joined the McMahon Group after each of us having long distinguished careers in club management industry. Chris being in many clubs around the world, actually, and finished his club at 20 years at Bald Peak Colony Club. Many of you may know Chris from visiting here in Florida and attracting some of our staff to go up to Bald Peak during the winter months. And then for those of you who do not know me, I've also been in the club industry 35 years. I finished my career down here in Florida. But I was at Waxahachie Club in Jupiter for 9 years, Bell Reef Country Club in St. Louis, Atlanta Athletic Club, and was also lucky enough to be on the CMAA National Board and served as the president back in 2011 or 2012. So happy to be with McMahon Group. A little bit about background on the McMahon Group. We are a private club consulting group, and we've worked over the last 40 years with over 2,000 clubs all around the country. Many of those clubs we've worked with for multiple engagements because we can continue to get called back. You see there on the left side of your screen the number of clubs that we're kind of currently or recently worked with in Florida, and there's many, many more than that, and some of the national clubs we have worked with over the years as well. I'm sure many of these are clubs that you're all familiar with, but just wanted to give you just a bit of a background. Now we'll talk about clubs just a little bit, clubs now and clubs going forward. But first, we want to take a look just a little bit backward and talk about COVID. Well, pre-COVID, golf rounds were down, club memberships around the country were sagging just a little bit, and then COVID hit, and we were all very worried about what was going to happen to the club industry. Well, it turns out that COVID was the best thing to happen to private clubs since Tiger Woods came on the scene in the late 90s and early 2000s. Club memberships surged, waiting lists were formed, and more clubs were using, or more and more members were using clubs like never before. Actually, we see that before COVID, about 25% of the clubs in the country had a waiting list, and after COVID, or during COVID and shortly thereafter, over half the clubs in the country now have waiting lists to get in. But things that happened really quickly during COVID, it's kind of interesting. Clubs have been very slow to make changes throughout history, and it's kind of because members listen to other members oftentimes, so they're slow to make decisions. But what happened during COVID was we found out we could make decisions very, very quickly because we had to. During the time of COVID, our members started working from home. We rediscovered how much fun it was being outdoors for recreation as well as dining. New technologies were being adapted, including this technology we're using here today. And it was also technology that's been used at our clubs. So like I say, things happen very, very quickly. Members are leaving larger cities, a lot of people coming to Florida, as we'll talk about shortly. And our homes really transformed, just like I'm sitting in my home today. Our homes have turned into offices. We're working from home, we're playing from home, we're not going to the office like we used to. So the transformation of home made it much easier for members to get away from work and utilize their private club space, which has happened. During that COVID time, members really found that need even more so for sanctuary and for safety. Surveys that we take all around the country now place safety and security among the very top things that members are looking for in their private clubs. Our social circles got just a little bit smaller because we didn't trust what was going on with the general population out there, but we felt like our smaller groups of friends were safe to be around. And we've continued that a little bit as members get back to their clubs. They've trust their friends, and they like being in the socialization of space that we offer at our private clubs. So members saw a lot of value there. Clubs really reached out and did a lot of great things during COVID, those meals to go, the delivery service in some of our HOA communities. I know many of you managers were delivering meals to your members. Others were having them picked up at the front door of the club, or valets running them out to the car and that kind of thing. And then once we opened, we really opened with a flourish, and members really came back to our clubs. A lot of clubs cut back on banquets during COVID because they had to. We couldn't socialize in those large social circles anymore. So banquet spaces were cut out. And now since COVID, managers have realized that maybe banquets weren't all they were cracked up to be. And a lot of clubs are cutting back on those outside events. Staff, as we know, is hard to come by. It's hard to retain our team members. It's hard to find team members. So now it's all about the member experience, not the non-member experience. So we've cut out a lot of our banquet business that doesn't relate to members. And really, we think that's a good thing because everything should be focused on the member experience. So limited guest access, fewer members on our golf courses, our tennis courts, and those kinds of things. We've restricted access based upon play rounds of golf available and tennis courts available and pickleball courts available and that kind of thing. But the one thing that really happened was members realized they had great value in their clubs, and our staff took great care of the members, so they're back in full force. So as I mentioned before, with people working from home, our homes and home work and play lives have really transcended into something completely different. Now we're working from home where our play space is closer to home. That's our country clubs, and members are using our clubs much more often. Lifestyles have changed completely. So members are able to do some things like we're doing here. We're Zooming for business calls, or we're doing some meetings at our home office, and then we can run out to the driving range and hit some balls for a half hour, an hour, maybe play 9 holes of golf, maybe play 18, play tennis, pickleball, whatever it is, and then right back home to get back on a computer and do some work. So clubs have really benefited from that change. Since that's happened, the amenities from everything from golf to fitness, food and beverage has just expanded greatly, and that's going to continue, we hope, over time. But we have to be very intentional about that so we don't creep back into those old habits we had pre-COVID, where we just thought members were going to keep coming to the club no matter what we did, because our businesses were dropping off before COVID. So now we need to do some different things. One of the things some clubs are doing now which city clubs have done for a long time, but country clubs are now doing this. They're putting in workspaces to accommodate members so that they can work from the club, or they can stop in the club and work before a fitness workout or afterwards, or whatever it may be. Recently, Chris Coulter and I were up at Nishotic Country Club outside of Boston, and they took one of their conference rooms and actually added a couple of these small spaces. They look like an old phone booth, if you can remember what those look like, but they're soundproof. They've got the padded walls. They've got space to set up a laptop for Zoom calls, and all the electrical devices for USB ports and those kinds of things. So more and more clubs are reaching out and trying to find ways to extend the stay of their members when they come to the club. And part of that has to do with giving them a workspace. So those are new things that are going on. Many of you have seen this slide before that we like to use, and it's the birth rates of the United States from 1910 through 2020. Well, what's happened is you see the baby boom generation right there in the middle, 1957, was kind of the height of our birth rates. And really, clubs around the country have been catering to that demographic for a very long time. Those of us are now in that 60, 65-year-old age range. Then birth rates started to go down. They spiked up just a little bit in the early 70s, but then kind of bottomed out in the mid 70s and then started creeping back up a little bit. So 1980 to 1990 here we see is really a great golden age of people who were born into what we call the marketplace for clubs, because the average age for new members joining clubs around the country today is 42 years old. The average age for someone joining a club is 42. Typically, it's a husband and wife and 2 kids. Well, some of that impacts us, those of us in Florida who have kind of standalone clubs. Some of the HOAs and some of the retirement communities, not as much, although that is changing as well. So what's really happening is more people aging into that club marketplace. So that's really good for Florida clubs, because as we move forward, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, whatever it may be, those people are going to be looking for a place, maybe even sooner than that, but maybe looking to move to Florida. And they've already been in that club environment. They've been in that club space, and they want to continue that club space. So that's going to be good for all of our clubs as we move forward. Important thing that's happened about Florida over the last few years is that now Florida is the fastest growing state in the country. Our population grew by almost 2% between 21 and 22. And that's happening while, as you saw, birth rates around the United States are decreasing. So population base is decreasing in the United States, and many states are actually shrinking population, and now we're the fastest growing state. So as you see, the Weldon Cooper Center for Public Service, University of Virginia, says that our population here in Florida is going to expand by 32% in the next 18 years. They said between 2020 and 2040, 7 more people will be moving to Florida. Now we're at about a 22 million population, so that's going to take us close to 29 to 30 million. And are we going to be ready? Are we as private clubs going to be ready to accommodate those people? Right now, most of us are full. We've got waiting lists, and more people want to get into our club. So we've got to temper their expectations as they come in. But with population growth, the downside of that is housing prices go up. And this was a headline out of Tampa, and that was an average apartment in Tampa was about $2,300. That was from December of last year, which is 40% increase over the last 5 years. Well, it certainly doesn't impact a lot of our members as much, but what it does impact, as well as the next bullet point, property and casualty insurance skyrocketing, that impacts our staff, that impacts our labor market. So people who've moved to Florida, kind of that middle class people or middle class group, or even the lower income group, a lot of those population bases work at our clubs. They're becoming a little bit discouraged, and there may be some flight leaving Florida, some of those who can no longer afford to live here because of the housing costs and because of insurance costs. So clubs need to be very aware of that, and that comes into how we recruit and how we retain staff and what we can do to keep them on board. So as we say, paradise does come at a price. Property insurances are supposed to increase 40% in this year alone. So those things continue to go up. Florida's pay the highest average premium in the United States, where average homeowners paying over $4,200 for property insurance, which is triple the rate of what's happening around the country. So again, this impacts those people who are going to be working at our clubs. So it's incumbent upon us to find ways to retain the staff and do all we can to keep that staff engaged at our clubs. Where are people coming from in Florida? Well, a large market, if you can believe it, is from outside the United States. Based upon the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, people are turning in their driver's licenses and getting a Florida driver's license. And here's where they're coming from. 115,000 people from around the world came to the United States in 2022. And then from there, it's that Northeast corridor a little bit. You've got New York and New Jersey. New York by 2 to 1 over New Jersey. And then of all things, California. More Californians are moving to our state. Pennsylvania, then you see right down the line, Illinois, Georgia, Texas, Ohio, and Massachusetts. So people from all over the United States are finding out what a lot of us know, and that is Florida is a great place to live, Florida is a great place to work, and Florida is a great place to raise our families. So what does that mean for us as far as our clubs go? Well, the relevant club of the future, how do we remain relevant to our members and attract those new members? And a lot of it does have to do with safety and security, and make sure that we do have a great club, but all of our members feel safe and secure in that club. That doesn't always mean a gated community, but it does mean that the club that we have, we need to be thinking about our safety, and whether that's having a show of force on in our clubs or not, we don't know. I was at a club recently at a very wealthy part of California. Again, a different environment for sure, but they had a roving guard on staff almost 24 hours a day, and members knew that they were there. It just gave them that feeling of safety, and maybe those are things that unfortunately we may be looking at going forward to some of our clubs. Golf practice and training areas are very important in clubs going forward. Of course, golf has always been king, but now training is right up there alongside it. Members are finding the value in all kinds of training, from short courses to the driving ranges to par threes to putting ranges or putting courses. All those things are happening. Florida, it's all about casual. We know that for a long time here, our formal dining has gone away, but the bistros, the cafes, indoor, outdoor spaces are very, very popular. Those Wi-Fi hotspots where members can come to the club and take their iPad or their laptop and flip those open and get some work done. Those are the kind of places members want to enjoy today. Outdoor living, it's all about being outside, enjoying the great sunshine we've got here and the great weather. And then again, taking care of our children, our social spaces for people of all ages, very young children to the very, very senior members of our family. It's making sure that there's something for everyone. Swimming pools have certainly expanded. They've grown. Aquatic centers, splash pads for kids are certainly big and continue to grow. Pickleball and bocce. We'll talk about pickleball in just a little bit about how fast that sport has grown, but bocce certainly has come on board. We see bocce being very, very popular, especially if those courts are located near a bar, near a social hub, near where people can get some food and drink. And the leagues that started clubs have just been overwhelming. Fitness and wellness continues to be one of the top things that are where clubs are making improvements. Wellness, everything that's happening from the very senior parts of our membership to the very young members at our clubs are all looking for extending their life and doing it in a healthy way so that they can use that club a little bit longer, so they can play tennis longer, pickleball longer, and they can swing the club a little bit longer, a little bit better. The other thing that's happening is we all know, and especially Florida, cards are very popular, and I say seated sports. I picked that phrase up from Sawgrass Country Club because they do a lot of things there that are not card related, but it's things where people sit around and do other types of things, everything from mahjong to canasta, cribbage, or whatever it may be. But there's a lot of things for our members to do when they're not golfing, and we have to make sure that we accommodate them. But golf is booming. All sports, especially outdoor sports, are booming. Everything is happening. We have to continue to provide the programming to engage our members so that they believe that their club is their favorite place. It's their third place, apart from work, apart from home. It's the place that they want to be, where they can feel trusted, they can feel safe, feel secure, and be around their friends and family members in a controlled access environment. Well, as I mentioned before, staff retention and recruiting is so vital to what we do in clubs today, and everybody talks about what it's all about. Well, a lot of it has to do with not only pay, because all of us have had to increase our wages over the last few years. In the hospitality industry nationwide, wages in the hospitality industry have increased over 30%, which is the highest of any industry in the country. Hospitality wages over 30% increase. And yet we are still lacking for employees. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that money is not everything. It's certainly a lot, but we're right up there. We're paying the wages that a lot of other places are paying, but we're not attracting those people. So what can we do? Higher wages as people come in. We're paying retention bonuses to those members to stay with us a little bit longer. But this labor shortage is going to take a while, and we've got to make sure that our staff have the time off they need. They need social time to themselves. So we see here the full-time equivalents need to increase. And what we see around the country is that we will see more co-head golf professionals. We may see co-head tennis professionals. We may see, that executive chef and maybe a co-executive chef, or certainly an executive sous chef who is very, very experienced with the wage to go along with it, that can help take some of the hours away from a chef, and a golf course superintendent the same way. People want to work fewer hours. They don't want to work those 16, 70, and 80 hours a week anymore. So it's not just the millennials, it's not just a Generation Z, but all of us want our work weeks to be shortened a little bit. We don't want to all work Friday nights, Saturday nights, and Sunday nights, long weekends in a row. So we have to find ways to give our staff members off. Everybody needs a 3-day weekend every month or every 6 weeks or something like that. So we have to be very deliberate in the way we schedule our staff members so that they have that social time and time away. What people found out during COVID was if they weren't working and they had Friday nights off and Saturday nights off and they had Sundays off, they thought, hey, this is a pretty good thing. Maybe I don't want to work weekends anymore. But if we can get them back to work, and if we can make them feel part of our organization, plus give them time away for themselves, we're more likely to keep them. Our culture is very important. The leadership is very important. And again, it's that work-life balance being part of the key. We say that Gen Z is prioritizing happiness first, but aren't we all? I think we all learned a little bit about that during COVID. Our happiness does come first. Our happiness should come first, not only for us, but for our family members. So we have to make sure that our team members realize that they need time away, but we as managers need time away as well. And that's got to be how we change that culture within clubs and how we change members' expectations so that we don't have to feel like we need to be seen every Friday and Saturday night in the dining room, but we can have our time off and time away, and that members encourage us to do that. More middle management, as I said, I think we'll have to double up on some positions, 2 food and beverage managers, more dining room managers, all those type of positions where people are back to working that 40-hour work week, except in the rare occasions of those member guest events, those type of things. Salary and benefits, we need to look at those for retention. And again, developing staff plans so that we can become the community employer of choice. We all want that, but we really need to commit to it. So how do we commit to being that great community employer of choice? Well, some of that is having the right people in the right places, putting the right people in the seats on the bus. Our staffs have expanded. We need that communications person, that communications marketing person who updates our websites and sends out our emails and takes care of our internal communications as well as our external communications. We need somebody to work with HR to help train our staffs. Our dining room managers, our food and beverage managers are so busy doing other things. Oftentimes training gets pushed to the back sometimes. We really need to move training to the forefront. We need that family person who's going to be coordinating our family events. So more people there. Our facilities managers need to be more highly skilled and highly trained than ever before. And some clubs are hiring people now to be project managers for 2 and 3 years at a time as they go into major projects, and then keeping that staff person on for even a longer period of time so that they can work on those ongoing capital projects, and they can bid those projects out and give those projects the special time that they need. So those are important parts of what's happening in the world today. And all this takes education of our boards because it's more revenue. We need to drive more revenue, whether it's through dues or whether it's through other areas of the club. But it's all about that, again, work-life balance, work-life synergy. Synergy is that energy you spend as an accurate reflection of clearly held values and priorities. And we all have our own personal values, our personal mission statements, our personal goals, and we should encourage our staff to have those same things and encourage them and train them in that same way. So what's happening with staff and amenities? We've all heard, a lot of us anyway, about the great things that Mediterra Country Club has done over in Naples, where they've got some great staff facilities, some great staff dining rooms and cafeterias, and they've got the word cloud up there with all the words that are meaningful to their staff. What's going on with their employee break room there and their bulletin boards as to what happens to their staff members. So they hand out great things to their staff members. They've got some wonderful opportunities of their H-2B programs. They've got gifts that they hand out to their people whenever they show up for their seasonal work, but they really treat them like members almost. Here's a great example at Interlochen Country Club up in Minneapolis, where they took the 3rd floor of their club and turned it into a staff space. So they've got this great gathering space for staff, for food, beverage, dining. They've got some wonderful ways to recognize their staff. How about this for a staff locker room? I mean, this looks like a member locker room in a tennis center or fitness center or something like that, but this is their staff locker rooms. How nice it is. Staff meeting rooms, staff break rooms, staff offices. How do yours look compared to something like this? Here's a great staff office space that they have put together, where they've got great workspaces for their food and beverage team, their assistant management team, those types of individuals. And then down at Key Largo Anglers Club, they built special dormitories for their staff, and again, put a lot of thought and effort into it, into those common rooms where they can bring people together in the quads, where they've got several people living in one apartment, but nicely furnished, easy to clean, low maintenance, and that kind of thing. But those are all important things that happen. The other thing that we need to look at is the amenities for programs and children at all of our clubs, and a number of things like this. These great aquatic centers, as I was talking about before. Meisner Country Club, a great job in what they've done with game rooms and kid rooms, and how they keep kids happy when they're on campus and take care of them. Woodfield, very similar, with those bright, vibrant colors. Gaming consoles, all kinds of things to keep the kids, where the kids take the parents to the club. The kids want that to be the place to be. But for the parents, what do we do for that? It's great social spaces. And we'd see things like this as Daniel Island Club up in South Carolina, but great dining rooms with those TVs and sports bar kind of atmosphere. The bar that is a great bar on the inside for casual conversations, but also opens up to the outdoor space and an outdoor bar out there when they slide those doors open. Wonderful spaces like that at Addison Reserve here on the left, where again, that indoor outdoor bar and those fire pits where it's casual dining and casual relaxation spaces. Club at Pelican Bay on the right, beautiful light, open air spaces, high ceilings, tables that aren't on top of each other, but spread apart. Like we found out during COVID, we like a little elbow room. We like to spread out a little bit. Don't put us on top of each other. The Loxahatchee Club here in Jupiter, a great outdoor space, fire pits overlooking the 18th green at sunset, the indoor outdoor bar that is popular throughout the season. Gulfstream, it's a beautiful, bright spaces and great gathering spaces for the members to be. Lauderdale Yacht Club, again, just bright, beautiful spaces where members want to socialize. But golf continues to be king. Golf is what drives a lot of members to come to our club. So what's happening in golf? Well, right now it seems like everybody's building a golf house or building hitting bays, simulators, social spaces. We're using golf as entertainment. Got a few examples here. I'll show you the club at Admirals Cove, Jupiter Hills, the club at Ibis, Boca West, and Country Club of Mirasol are some great examples of what's happening with clubs. And got some great photos here. I'm down in the Palm Beach County area, so that's where all of these are located. But I know they're happening throughout the state and certainly throughout the country. Top tracer range technology is big. You install these radar towers like you see here on the left, this top tracer range technology. And then you can set up iPhone stands at each hitting station where members can download the Top Tracer app. And while you don't have to have a computer at every station, each member can bring their own computer in the way of their iPhone. And they put it on a stand there, and they're able to download that app, and they're able to record all of their shots that they take and how far each club hits the ball and how close they are to the holes and that kind of stuff. So those kinds of things are taking place around the country in South Florida as well. Here's at Boca West at Mr. D's. They're great space where during the day it's a wonderful place for members to practice the indoor or the artificial turf, as you see there. And then in the evening, it turns into that Top Golf kind of environment where it turns into a real social setting. So behind those hitting bays, they've got food and beverage and a bar atmosphere where it's very socializing and very welcoming space. So again, it's that golf as training turns into golf entertainment all in one location. The club at Ibis with this beautiful fairway, the beautiful driving range area they did here about a year or so ago with an X-shaped fairway with hitting targets where you could hit throughout that driving range area and hit the different targets. iPhone stands are at each hitting station because they've got that Top Tracer technology there. The mirrors, the swing plane boards, the stretching stations on both sides of that driving range. Artificial turf on their hitting surfaces, so that are on their target surfaces, so that they can use robotic ball retrievers on those to pick up the balls, and that there's less maintenance on those. The same thing, you see the bunkers behind there, that's not sand in the bunkers, those are a fabric liner. Again, easier to maintain, easier to pick the balls out of, but a beautiful way to approach things. Here, the club at Admirals Cove, one of their new hitting bays in their golf house. Again, with all the latest technology, the screens off to the right where they can help train everyone. This is inside that same facility. Again, socialization space. Where can you go and hang out? Where can you go maybe on a Friday night? You get 4 or 5 other couples, and they've got the golf simulators in there, and you can play 9 holes at Pebble Beach or whatever it may be while you're having cocktails and hors d'oeuvres and just having a fun time socializing. Jupiter Hills, again, a great facility that they built for training, for club fitting, hitting bays. Country Club of Mirasol this is their rendering of what they're doing. Very similar to what we see at other clubs, but it just shows you the trend that's happening across the country, and everybody's jumping on board right now. So something to be looking at. So it's all about staying ahead of the curve, and what do we need to do to stay ahead of the curve to keep active and keep our members engaged in what's going on? Well, it certainly requires capital. It requires capital improvement, but it requires a commitment. Here at Atlantic Beach Club, up outside Jacksonville, up near Ponte Vedra, the Atlantic Beach Club has done some great things with some of their renovations of the place. They're right now working on a new tennis house. They're working on a rooftop bar that's on top of their kind of halfway house, outdoor and social spaces, and some casual bar and dining. So what, it's kind of an interesting story that Atlantic Beach Club was started by a developer many years ago, 20 years ago or so. And the club actually ended up going bankrupt, and the developer came back and took the club out of bankruptcy and reopened it as Atlantic Beach Club before they turned it over to the membership. And it was primarily built for snowbirds. It was built for the 55 plus community and those who were just coming down here for the winter months. And it's about 4 miles from the Atlantic Ocean. So what's happened, especially over the last 3 or 4 years with COVID, is that the housing market has just been on fire there. And homes, wood frame houses that were selling for $350,000 4 or 5 years ago, were now purchased, knocked down, and now they're building $3 and $4 million homes to take those places. So Atlantic Beach Club is a little bit similar to what's happening around the rest of the country. New members are joining the club at rapid rates. Clubs are getting younger. New members have stronger balance sheets. They have more money to spend, and they want new and improved amenities. Well, what Michael Chase, the general manager there, has had to do is kind of weave that tangled web, if you will, of appeasing the longtime members who've been there, that joined the club when it was just kind of a neighborhood club. And now it's turned into a family club with a lot more people with some substantial incomes, and they want to change the club. So they've had to go into it and look at what they need to do to improve and enhance that. So they've come up with a $16.5 million project, and in 2 different phases. They're focusing on a couple of things. They're focusing on member space, but they're also focusing on staff space so that members and staff can both have great experiences while we're at their club. They want to make sure that that staff experience is one of the top ones in the marketplace, so that they can be that employer of choice in that Ponte Vedra, suburban Jacksonville area. Indoor, outdoor bars, gathering spaces, all the things we talked about earlier as far as what's happening. A standalone rackets pavilion, because rackets continue to grow. Again, adding a youth room, covered pavilion for outdoor activities. All those types of things are taking place. A therapy room in their fitness area. Also in their fitness area, they're going to have a recovery suite, so they can go in there and have some stretching for golfers before or after their round of golf, or tennis players, whatever it may be. Some manual modalities that they could be able to use on those people, so on the members. So some new and different things. I certainly want to make sure that the kitchen space accommodates all of that. So a lot of things happening at that club. And again, like I say, Michael's had to work to bring the new members on board and get them to buy into it. Say, we can't do everything at once. We're going to do this in a couple of phases, but bear with us. And at the same time, try and keep that older membership active and involved in what's going on. By the way, this is not a client of McMahon's. We're just, Michael's a friend of mine and was doing great things there. I wanted to share that with everyone. And again, Atlantic Beach is not a giant club like a Boca West or Admirals or Mirasol. So these are things that can happen with clubs all around the state of Florida. This is their Rackets Club illustration that they're going to build. This is this rooftop bar above their where their halfway house is, located right behind the 10th tee. And it's very close to the clubhouse as well. You can see to the right out one of the windows here, you can see over to the clubhouse. So this is really built as a destination area, not just for the golfers. They're using it as a halfway house. So a great spot to gather. Then on the outside of the clubhouse, on the back of the clubhouse, the swimming pool is out of range of this illustration. It's off just to the left, but they are building, again, that fire pit area outside with a bar behind it, so that bar can serve the pool, serve that casual dining or that casual area out by the fire pits, as well as the outdoor dining area that's undercover off to the right. So doing some great things with the spaces there. And then on the indoor space, because you always have to take care of the indoors, is that, you got the shiplap siding on the inside, the great wine display, a good gathering bar, and those kinds of things. So those are the kinds of things we're seeing happening around the country. It's right happening in our own backyard as well. Meanwhile, the Country Club of Mirasol doing great things as they continue to. I was fortunate enough to be there a few weeks ago to present Matt Lambert with the Excellence in Club Management Award. So proud of Matt for winning that award. And it was their annual meeting. So we got to present that award with 150, 200 members at Mirasol. But they've got a great commitment. And I took a couple of slides from their annual meeting because it really talks about their commitment. And I wanted to share that with all of you because it is all about commitment, and it's about sharing the commitment with your members. So this is one of the slides, one of many, but I've got a couple here to show you. Again, to maintain our market position as a premier platinum club, significant investments will be needed in the future to keep our facilities updated, ensure our amenities remain relevant, enhance the members' experience club-wide, protect our community, etc. I like the second bullet point. It's imperative. I mean, this is a must-do. This is not a wish list. This is imperative for our continued success as an elite community, that the leadership is proactive. We proactively focus on a master plan that maintains the framework for future success and make Mirasol attractive to future buyers. What they're doing there is they're setting the stage for the members. And we believe that's very important at McMahon Group, that clubs look towards the future, not only in their capital budgets and their aspirational amenities, but also their own operational amenities, and look forward. We believe that looking forward, club leadership should tell their members what to expect over the next 3 to 5 years or even beyond that, because members may choose to leave the club at some point. They may say, well, you know, for now I can afford to be here, but if we continue to go like we're going, maybe in 5 years, the club, I'm going to not be able to maintain my membership. A lot of us, we won't outlive our money, but we might outlive our lifestyles. And I think we're seeing that in a lot of the clubs we manage. Members are outliving the lifestyle that they have become accustomed to, because clubs have to move forward and have to continue to get ready for that next generation. And that takes a lot of capital. So Mirasol also talked about what their master plan, there's some of their phases are. 10 more pickleball courts, a golf learning center, as we mentioned before, new pro shop, card bar, and golf staging areas. But along with that, you've got to do something for everyone. So it certainly ties into dining, what's happening with the Revive, the dining room they have there, the grill room. And then this is what we hear so much of that clubs are doing. And that's a multi-purpose building that includes outdoor seating, beautiful views of golf courses, water features, sports bar, multiple TVs. That's that kind of hangout area. We like clubs to have a place where, it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon and somebody's at their house and say, gee, what am I going to do this afternoon? You know what? I'm going to run by the club because there's always going to be a great group of people to hang out with. There's a great bar there. The sports are on TV. The bartender's going to know my name and know my favorite drink. And it's just going to be a great place to go and hang out. Maybe I'll see some people come off the golf course and meet up with them. But what kind of places do clubs have where that hangout space where you can go any time of the day and there's always something happening? Mirasol has got that in their vision for the future. If your boards are a little concerned about planning for the future, I encourage you to take a look at this Golf Digest article that was written in March. So just a little over a month ago, you could look it up online. This is the title. It's Masters 2023, Augusta National's Expansion Debate. A second course, more housing, and even more influence. So this whole article is talking about how Augusta National has something they call the plan. You could call it a master plan if you wanted to. You could call it a strategic plan, but they call it the plan. And it looks 20 to 30 years in the future about what Augusta National is all about and where they should be. As we know, they've systematically bought up real estate. They're doing some different things. They're looking at a whole separate entrance from the highway, or an exit from the highway that takes members right into the parking lot of Augusta National, so they don't even have to drive through town. So they're really looking far in advance, and there's no reason other clubs can't do that. Well, we may not be making tens or hundreds of millions of dollars off a major golf championship like Augusta National is, but it doesn't preclude us from planning that 5, 10, 15, 20 years in advance and putting a master plan together. You say, if it's good enough for Augusta National, why can't it be good enough for our club? So I encourage you to share this article with your leadership and talk to them about where we're going, what our future brings at our club. We say, what's hot in rackets right now? My gosh, everything's hot in rackets. Team tennis, pickleball, kids tennis, pop tennis, whatever it may be. Pickleball, here's Ballot Isles. There's some of the new pickleball courts there. Everything's happening on the pickleball courts. I mean, here's a great club in California, Braemar Country Club, and they built their whole social area around the pickleball courts. What we used to see more around tennis and all that, but it's tennis and pickle, indoor, outdoor areas, exhibition areas, dining, all those kinds of things. We talk about it, is pickleball a fad or is it a trend? Well, you may have heard of a group called Chicken and Pickle, or Pickle and Chicken, or Chicken and Pickle. Anyway, commercial environment spending lots of money all across the country building these outdoor pickleball courts with food and beverage venue to go around it. This is one's in Wichita, Kansas, of all places, but these things are growing. So pickleball is here to stay. Here's some statistics for this year from a place called Picklehead's website. As you see there on the top right, 158.6% pickleball's average growth rate in the last 3 years. Tell me anything that's grown 158% in 3 years. Pickleball is not slowing down. So when people say, we go into master plan and talk to them, yeah, is this a trend or is it a fad? Is this going to go away in a couple of years? Well, we certainly don't see it going away in a couple of years. We believe this is a trend that's here to stay, and that those who haven't jumped on board yet certainly need to. And if you even are on board, you probably need to be looking towards the future of how you're going to expand your programs, your amenities, your facilities to make it continue to work. The other thing that's new out there, a sport called padel. Padel started in Mexico City. It's an interesting new sport. It's kind of takes the best of tennis, squash, pickleball, paddle tennis, and kind of puts them all together in one. So here you see a padel court. Yes, those are glass walls and mesh on the side, and the ball is played off the wall. It can be played off the court, it can be played off the wall, it can be played off the side fences. Again, a little bit like racquetball, a little bit like squash. Here you see them in action there, but again, those mesh screens all the way around that you can play the ball off of. The court is a little bit smaller than a tennis court. It's usually always played as a double. There's a doubles court or a singles court, and we see doubles court being the way to go. You see their serves are served underhanded. Padel, we score the same way as tennis. You go, love, 15 love, 30 love, etc. Padel balls are a little bit similar to tennis ball, but smaller. They don't have as much compression. The rackets are different as well. And I say the court is concrete, plastic, artificial grass. Court surrounded by those 4-meter high walls, glass brick or fence when it's outside. We also see these as inside. And this is a sport that's growing. It's the fastest growing sport in Spain. It's growing all around the world right now. There are padel courts being built in the United States, but it's a trend to watch. It does require more space, and all of us, I mean, clubs right now are challenged. We're finding a tough time to find a place to put pickleball, let alone now looking at padel. But it's something that you should need to be aware of in case your members bring it to your attention. So do some research so that you're at least conversational about it and can talk about space considerations and needs out there. There are also commercial padel courts being built around the country in some cities as well. So look for those. So what's happening in technology? You know, technology is driving so many things, but we have to be very careful with technology because we are the keeper of a lot of personal information from our members, phone numbers and payment information and all kinds of stuff, sometimes even credit card information. So we need to make sure that we keep those things safe and secure, because data it's the new oil, it's the new water, it's our life, it's our lifeblood, and it's the lifeblood to those people who want to steal it from us as well. So we have to be very careful that we have secure networks all the time, that our firewalls are up to date, antivirus software, intrusion detective systems, all those things need to be right up to date. I'm sure you trust your controller or your internet IT professional or whoever it is, but it's worth having a conversation to talk about these things. It's certainly worth a conversation with your board of directors to make sure that you have ample resources to protect your members and protect your staff, and you're doing the right thing. Cybersecurity training is just as important as fire training, fire drills, or tornado drills, or hurricane drills, or anything else. Staff needs to know all about these kinds of things. These phishing attacks happen all the time. I was at a club several years ago, and a controller was walking by my office. He poked his head in the door and said, "Oh, by the way, I got your email about that $30,000 transfer, and I'm going to go ahead and send that later this afternoon, if that's okay with you." Well, we were doing a major golf course project, and he just assumed that I'd sent him a request for this $30,000 to be sent to a company. Well, I said to him, "Wait a minute, I didn't send you an email about that." And he said, "Oh, I got an email from you later today." And I said, go look at that email, click on the email address and see if it came from me or somebody else. And sure enough, we'd been attacked. We'd been phished. Somebody got his name because it's public record who our controller was. They got my name, public record, as to what we were doing, and also public record of construction permits being issued. So somebody had gone to the trouble to find out that we've been doing a construction project. They found out our controller's name, found out my name, got our email addresses, and was asking that this guy, asking that us send $30,000 to this fake company. Luckily, we caught it. I know of other clubs that have gotten the same instance where they didn't catch it and money was sent. So, this is a kind of a drill you can do also. And there are companies out there. Pulsar Security is a great company. There's others there that will, do these things, kind of a phony thing, to send emails to your staff to see if they respond to them. So important part to do. It's just like any other kind of training. We need to train on how to handle emails that tamper with our security. A lot of breaches occurring throughout the United States, and we have to make sure to prevent that. So I think the third bullet point here is really important, is retaining your members' trust. Members are more likely to trust their club and the club leadership, I might add, if they take cybersecurity seriously and provide training to their employees and then publicize that. You let your members know, you let your staff know, your board know that we're going through these training exercises because your data is important to us and your security is important to us. So make sure that you get that word out once you get into it. Again, training, firewalls. I mean, we active shooter training for staff, how we respond to crisis. Unfortunately, that's become a thing that we must do now, but we have to do this same thing with cybersecurity. So, and then have a review by experts that come in. Digital use by members. We're seeing more and more members want more robust apps. They want, there's some great apps out there. There's some apps out there that aren't quite so great, but we encourage clubs to go out there and look for the best app that they can afford and put all that information on there. Websites are not as popular as they once were. They're kind of with an older generation, but people today are looking at apps and how to utilize those in a better way. So that geofencing is important as well. I was on a plane. I sat next to a guy who was a member of a club, and he told me how impressed he was. He had just joined the club brand new. He went through the gate, and they called him by name when he went through the gate. They called him by name when he got to the front door of the club. He couldn't figure it out. And then later he found out he had his app turned on and they had the geofencing and they knew when he was coming in. So important part of what's happening. Artificial intelligence, my gosh, that's been in the news so much in the last 30, 45 days, ChatGPT and many other kinds of things. So how will it affect clubs? Well, I mentioned earlier, just these little robotic ball pickers. That's a way of using artificial intelligence. There's certainly going to be other things that come on board over the course of the years. Once we get some approvals on autonomous mowers and those kinds of things on our golf courses and our driving range, hopefully some regulations will allow that to happen. But what else is going on? There's a great company out of Switzerland. I encourage you to look this one up. I don't know if they're doing much in the United States yet, called Kitro. They actually measure your kitchen waste. They have these devices that are on your trash cans and your garbage disposal. They can measure how much food is being wasted and how much food is being utilized and give those reports back to you. So again, it's just another artificial intelligence technology thing that's out there. You think there's no way this could ever work. Well, look up Kitro, this Swiss company, and read about them, because things are out there and we have to be looking at these things all the time. So what do we have for board members? CLA, Club Leadership Alliance, of which McMahon is part of, along with Club Benchmarking and Copley, Keebler, and Wallace, we're partnering up with Boardroom Institute to reinvigorate their virtual training platform that they have, where we're going to go in and work with them on producing new videos that on everything from strategic planning to the red, yellow, green buckets that Club Benchmarking talks about, to best practices in board governance, to legal issues, to whatever it may be. What's happening with the PGA of America? What's the difference between a 501c3 and a 501c7? All those things that we're going to work with Club Boardroom Institute on putting this together and making that a more robust platform to help train your boards and your committee members. So look for that in the future as something that's, again, technology being utilized to inform your members and keep them on the forefront of what's happening with the club industry. The other thing we're working with Club Leadership Alliance is working with a group called Bell's Board. And this Bell's Board is a portal that takes all your club information from your from your board minutes and decisions and your committee stuff and your bylaws and all those kinds of things, puts them in one location and one source where you can access them easily, either from the computer or via app, whatever it may be. Marvin Jones here at San Antonio Country Club highly recommends this company. Bell's board is huge with nonprofits all around the United States and profit boards as well. So again, you could look them up online. Here are some of the things that the Bell's board delivers on. So again, online meeting books, secure collaboration between boards and committees, setting up meetings and collaborating on dates, and integrating your calendar and your Zoom links and your meeting attendance. It would certainly help your executive assistant or whoever it is that works with your boards and putting all that together. So again, something new to look at where technology can help you and help your boards become more and more efficient. A lot going out there right now with energy savings. McMahon Group is working with a company called Taliesin out of St. Louis, close to home for our company. But Taliesin is a company that works on software, has a software service model that monitors energy consumption for electricity, water, gas, natural gas, whatever it may be. And again, you see some of the areas they work with all around the country in large major corporations, but they also are now getting into the club space, and we're working with them on a couple of clubs right now. Energy of the environment is very important to what we do. We were talking to a club, they put an $800,000 rackets facility onto their club, and when they did a member open house, one member came through and he saw that they had a Nest system on the wall for their HVAC controls, which the club thought was doing very well. The member looks at it and said, what's this home application thing? He said, I expect the club to spend money the way I do. It can provide luxury and still be environmentally responsible. Why are we having something so chintzy as this when we can really do a much better job of controlling our environment? So things to look at. Leadership is what it's all about. Pre-COVID, more people were looking at the environment and energy savings and those kinds of things. And then COVID hit and we all kind of lost focus of that. But it's time to really get back and look at how we can be good stewards of the environment, not only good stewards of the environment, but how it can save us money. This company with Taliesin certainly does that. They gave a good indication of one example where they were in a club and they found that one of their dampers on their heating cooling systems remained open all the time. So even though the room may have been calling for cooling, heating was going into the room and they didn't know it. And once they looked into it, they found out that it was costing a lot of money on a daily basis on what they were paying for that extra energy. So these are all areas where you can look at possible savings from your heating and cooling, swimming pool water, lighting controls, deep water ground cooling, battery and solar systems, solar power, etc. Sleepy Hollow Country Club, interestingly, they put in solar panels over 10 years ago. They invested about $1 million on this. They were paying about $70,000 a year on a payback to make this happen. All the time they were saving $50,000 in energy costs. So saving $50,000, but paying $70,000 for this, and then after 10 years they own it. And now they're saving money exponentially. They also have 3 wells on property where they're saving $300,000 to $400,000 a year on just using their own water. Round Hill Country Club, same thing out in California. They put in solar panels. They worked with a bank there to finance the whole thing. So the bank owned the solar panels. The bank was able to get a federal rebates on that, or federal help on that. The club was not able to because of their tax status, but the bank was. So the bank actually owned these panels. And then again, the club leased them for a period of time. And then when that lease was over, the club bought them for $1. So meanwhile, the bank benefited, the club benefited, and the federal government helped all the way around. So there's interesting ways to do things. Army Navy Country Club, when they rebuilt their club back in 2012, large facility, but they wanted to make sure that they were as energy friendly, energy conscious as they could at the time. They went with the LEED Silver certification. They did a lot of things there. I thought one of the great things they did there was installing generators so that during peak periods, those peak periods when the utility companies measure your usage and base your rates off that heavy usage, during that heavy usage time, they actually go offline and they go on generator power. So, what a smart move that is. They just go offline during peak periods and use generators, and then that keeps their rates down all year round. They did a number of other things with generators and solar measurements and high efficiency boilers, on and on. Again, they were great stewards of the environment, but also saved themselves money. Their indoor tennis center, the LED lighting they put in there, saved $30,000 to $35,000 a year just by that savings. Hydro courts outside, which a lot of clubs are going to, but that saved them 60% on water. Again, solar panels on the golf course ponds help to circulate water and control algae. So that's kind of a new twist on solar power. Some homeowners put them in for their swimming pools. Here they put it on their solar panels on the golf course ponds. They circulated those pumps and saved the money there, and the algae went down as well. And then adding energy charging stations. Sharon Heights Country Club, again, here's an example of a public-private partnership where they got very, very creative. They put in their own wastewater reclamation project, where they not only took wastewater from the club, but also surrounding community. And the project cost over $22 million, but they got a $5 million grant. Club's paying the construction loan. But again, they worked with the county, they worked with the state on how to do that. They're processing 500,000 gallons a day, cutting back on the reliance of municipal water. So what we're finding out around the country, and it's out there every day. You see it in the paper every time you turn the news on. There's something out there about being a great steward of our environment. What do we do to control energy costs, the energy consumption? So we like to say, if you don't do it, if you're not proactive, if your club's not proactive, somewhere along the line, somebody's going to come and tell you what to do. So you want to be ahead of the curve on this. So look into what those things can be done. Build those into your future projects as well. Oftentimes we see like solar panels or other things that are part of projects, and then they get value engineered out. Where again, something's going to happen, whether it's federal, probably not so much state in Florida, at least for the foreseeable future, but somebody's going to mandate that we get on board as clubs and do a better job with this. So again, something to look at. Cat Key is a great example here, right off the coast here in Bahamas. They've done a great job, an island and private club all in one that's completely self-sufficient with what they've done with solar power, battery storage, reverse osmosis water, wastewater treatment. All of those things have happened so that they can have a sustainable island, a sustainable club and community, because they're really out in the middle of nowhere. Again, the technology is out there, the know-how is out there. It is going to cost a little bit of money, but again, if we don't get ahead of it, somebody's going to come and tell us what to do. So look at those kinds of things. So overall, look at your energy consumption, look at your, when you change your rooms, when you renovate, see how those HVAC systems work and how they need to work. If you add something, a new wing, get your facility engineer. If they're leaving the club, somebody new coming in to take a look at things. Sometimes if your systems are too large to manage, you need to bring an outside third party in to take a look at it. That's where a group like Taliesin can certainly do that. So we like to say it's just an easy thing to do to make you more sustainable and save money at the same time. So I've gone on. If there's any questions, Sheree, if there's anything there that you can share, if any questions came in, you can let me know. Otherwise, I thank you for a great day.
Kevin, we do have one question in the QA box. It says,
yes.
With the installing of work-related spaces in clubs for members, do we have to be concerned with the IRS and they're preventing members working in their clubs?
Well, that's a great question from Ian Fettigan. Thank you, Ian. And I'm going to deftly pass that right on to Mitch Stump. That's a great question for Mitchell. We have not heard that in the past, but it's great to be proactive and find out. I'm sorry, I'm sorry I don't have that information for you.
Anyone else have a question for Kevin? I think that's everybody. And as a reminder to everyone, thank you again for your participation today. Kevin, can't thank you enough for all that great information and presentation from you today. We do record this session and we will be sending that out to all the entire membership as soon as we get the video and everything back. So thank you all again so much for everything. And Kevin, thank you again.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you at summer conference in June and in August, and hope you're registering and get out there, and it'd be great to get back together again. We had a great time last year.